So I'll introduce the panelists, and then I'll ask for opening statements from all three, and then we'll move into the question and answer. So Ilkka Tuomi is, and maybe before I start that, as you'll see, we're going to traverse an arc here. We're going to go from theory to practice to a little both in technology. So we'll start with the theory. We'll talk about practice and content, and then we'll hear from Richard on the technology. So Ilkka Tuomi is the founder of Meaning Processing, and is known, among other things, as one of the pioneers of the internet in Finland, and particularly well known for his research on open source innovation models. Catherine Guji is the project director of OER Africa, and this is an initiative of SADI, which is the South African Institute for Distance Education. Richard Baranek is the founder of the Connections Project, which is the world's, I think safe to say, the world's largest OER repository, or I'll assert that now, and also is a professor of computer science at Rice University. So, and an awardee at this year's WISE 2011. So, kudos for that. Okay, so Ilkka, please start in and let us know a little bit about the theory that we should look to as we consider how to innovate the next generation of education technologies.
Thank you. So I will start with a picture. The theory, in my view, is that's always the most useful practical tool if you have the theory, the basics of the theory right. So I will show you this picture. I'm not sure how well you see it on that screen, but it tells you something that no computer will ever be able to see. If you look at the picture for a while, you can see dots coming and going. And you know, we could have a science of dynamics of dots, and we could write a Wikipedia article on dots. And we could even go and write a textbook. What you see in this picture is a very important point for all information processing and for all attempts to digitize knowledge. Knowledge is contextual. We see and know what there is because there is a context of meaning that remains in the periphery and out of our focus. Because that, it is difficult to digitize knowledge. Computers and information systems normally process only the focal and articulated part of knowledge, thus missing its meaning. When we try to store and process knowledge using computers, much of that context resides in our social and physical environment. In tools, architectures, designs, expectations, social arrangements and routines, and conceptual systems. To make sense of computerized knowledge, we need a lot of knowledge. A child learns by borrowing eyes, ears, hands, and sense-making capacity from his or her parents. Novice open source developers become experts by seeing over the shoulder what the others have learned and by participating in their learning processes. Nobel laureates get Nobel Prizes by working with people who already have thoughts. Skills and knowledge do not reside in individual heads or bodies. We borrow cognitive capabilities from our social and material environment to get things done in a competent way. In the process, we learn. This is why the social dimension of the internet is critically important for learning, and why the net is a revolutionary force. Internet is built from computers and it moves bits. but it is not a data processing system. It is a communication medium. Yes, it also allows representation of explicitly articulated knowledge with Wikipedia, dictionaries, encyclopedias, and textbooks. But it also creates meaning through interaction and dialogue, and shifts what was in the periphery to the center and to the focus. It also creates and sustains social networks that can be dynamically mobilized when skill, knowledge, or capability is needed. It creates a social system where knowledge can become relevant and productive, and where innovation can happen. Technology in itself, however, does not generate any specific outcomes. For many decades now, people have tried to change education and learning using computers. They have often failed. Often the failures have resulted from wrong pedagogical beliefs. For example, that learning is about pouring explicit knowledge from a textbook or a teacher's mind to a student's head. Often, however, the failures have resulted from misunderstanding the nature of technology. Here I can speak of personal experience. Computers and other ICTs are what in economic terms could be called composite goods. You can invest as much as you want in computer hardware, but the investment only becomes productive if you make complementary investments in software, skills, incentives, institutions, ways of doing things, and systems of meaning. To create useful outcomes with technology, you have to change the context. Computers and information processing systems are now very cheap. Their quality-adjusted cost or price has been going down for the last 4 decades, almost 20% every year. Basically, computing is now free. It used to be the case that in successful information system projects, you had to allocate about 80% of resources in people and change management instead of technology. And that you used to underestimate that amount by roughly 80%. Now the numbers are probably very close to 90%. When the economy and systems of production are increasingly driven by innovation, the world becomes a turbulent place. The emerging world increasingly requires constant innovation and continuous knowledge creation. Educational systems and institutions which at present reflect the requirements of the industrial age need to be redesigned. Why then open educational resources and collaboration platforms are important? Open platforms for collaboration enable socially distributed and continuous learning. They also facilitate social and innovative knowledge and meaning creation. This is about a new and a different way of learning. Or more accurately, learning has always been like that. It is just that during the last 2 centuries, education could not be organized very efficiently or effectively because of practical limitations, and because the industrial age systems of schooling had many other objectives than learning. This is why open collaboration platforms will eventually revolutionize education. In the long run, the objectives of educational systems will change. In the industrial age, schools provided predefined skills and competencies and produced decent citizens that can work in factories and keep systems of production running. In the networked world, educational systems will increasingly aim at making nations and societies more intelligent and creative. In the future, educational systems will be increasingly about society-level improvements in sense-making, knowledge creation, and intelligent action. Open educational resources and platforms are the way of the future because they allow those types of learning processes that are increasingly dominant in the future, and already today. Learning will be increasingly peer-based, social, interactive, distributed, continuous, and contextual, and its focus will shift from the upstream knowledge sources towards downstream pools of meaning. Recent innovation research has highlighted this same shift towards downstream and noted, for example, the extraordinary speed at which competencies can develop in open collaborative environments. The OER movement, Open Educational Resource Movement, however, is simultaneously both ahead of its time and stuck in the past. The problem is not really about improving the quality of content that is distributed freely or cheaply using collaborative platforms. That's not the key challenge. Instead of optimizing current content and current educational systems, we need to rethink the social role of educational institutions in the emerging networked global world. To get useful outcomes from OER and to make it productive, the focus needs to be on transforming educational institutions, teacher training and incentive systems, and aligning them with the logic of the emerging networked and innovation-intensive world. Indeed, OER is a revolutionary force, but it also needs a revolution to become real. Innovation and creative destruction require a careful balance between stability and change. This can only be accomplished by visionary leadership and broad engagement by all the stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ilkka.